It's the distant future, the year 2024. I'm a podcaster, the only form of entertainment left in this bleak, nightmarish future. I've been plagued by dreams lately. Dreams of this black guy who traveled through time and told me to review this movie about a robot dinosaur.
Hey, Kaz, you doing okay? You've kind of just been staring out into space for a while.
That's my partner, Jameson Rafter, my best friend in rock for the past 6 years. I couldn't let him know that I had been narrating all this time. He respected me too much.
Look, if you're tired, I can introduce this episode for you. I don't mind.
What Jameson didn't know, what he couldn't know, is that the episode had already been introduced in the one place he couldn't follow, my mind. We wrap up our mini-series on TV pilots turned TV movies and watched Still Justice, aka Robosaurus, today on Nothing Movies. Welcome back, however you wish to self-identify, to Nothing Movies, where we ask the question, the fuck is this? It's the podcast where we go through an actor's filmography and choose the most anonymous and culturally untalked about movies that they've made, and decide whether or not they've got a certain something, or if they're just a whole lot of nothing. I'm Kaz Lesgard.
I'm Jameson Rafter.
And today, we cover filmographies on this podcast.
Yeah,
and
well,
today
you do.
Today, we're covering filmography of an actor who's greatly undervalued by the Hollywood system, never gets the roles that he deserves. I'm, of course, referring to Truckosaurus from that one episode of The Simpsons.
What a deep cut that is. No, we're not.
That's who it is, though, right?
Well, we're not covering an actor. We're covering a theme this go around, and the theme is Robosaurus. Kaz, what is your experience with Robosaurus?
All right, let's unpack this immediately, because there's a bit of a story behind this one. Yes, we are continuing.
We're finishing.
We're finishing up. We're finishing up our miniseries on TV pilots, failed TV pilots turned TV movies, with 1992's Steel Justice, a.k.a. Robosaurus. And let's get into this right now. Steel Justice is the wrong title for this movie. It's a coward's title. Is what it is.
It is a coward's title.
Have the courage and the conviction to name your movie Robosaurus, goddammit.
Steel Justice sounds like the title of 10 different movies.
Exactly.
It's so generic.
Absolutely. In my research, I found that there is, in fact, a movie called Steel Justice.
No kidding.
I'm gonna put a little pin in that, and maybe we'll come back to that later. But yeah, no, absolutely, it's the most generic title, and like justice does happen in this movie, and Steel
in the way that Judge Dredd dispenses justice,
and Steel is adjacent to it, but like Robosaurus is an important character thematically throughout this movie. Multiple characters say the name Robosaurus over and over again. Call your movie Robosaurus, you fucking cowards. That's basically what I'm going to say. My opening statement. That's my opening statement, Your Honor.
I love how they hung their hat on this entire premise of we got to build a show around Robosaurus. Do we have to... Who doesn't know what Robosaurus is? Has it fallen out of the pop culture zeitgeist?
It's fairly self-explanatory. It's a Robosaurus, right?
So for those of you who don't know, Robosaurus... is? I don't know if it's still a thing anymore.
It must still exist in some
capacity.
In some town that still loves their monster truck rallies or big stadium events.
Yeah, so...
Look, if you build a Robosaurus, you might as well use it. That's what the producers of this movie said.
Yeah, they had dollar signs in their eyes when they saw this at like a fucking air show or whatever. So Robosaurus was this fucking 3-4 story high robot dinosaur that would show up at like monster truck rallies for intermission events and like pick up cars, breathe fire on them, and crush them. That's it.
Yeah, as I said earlier, made somewhat famous by the one bit on that one Simpsons episode where Bart skips school to go see Truckosaurus because the TV told him you'd better be dead or in jail, and if you're in jail, break out. But this was indeed a thing.
Every 10-year-old boy's fantasy. My God,
it captured the hearts and minds of a growing '90s population.
Nothing embodied America more than fucking Robosaurus.
So let's break this down. So this failed TV pilot miniseries, Jameson, this was entirely your baby. This was
this has me written all over it.
This was a miniseries that you pitched, and you actually pitched all 3 of the movies that we ended up covering on this miniseries.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Now that we're at the end of it, I just have to say, well fucking done. Banger after banger after banger. All 3 of these movies were terrifically entertaining. Great.
Let it be known, I have great taste in schlock.
But this movie, Robosaurus,
you were a little hesitant on.
It took some convincing. It took me some convincing. The main sticking point for me was that I do like these episodes to somewhat tangentially being about covering the career of an actor, going through their filmography and finding the movies in their filmography that don't exist. And my main pushback, there's a couple of name actors in this movie,
but not
cast.
like A-list stars.
Absolutely, and they're not the main characters of the movie.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Yeah. So I did go through a list. I found like a Wikipedia list of failed TV pilots, and I tried to. I offered some alternatives, and it came down to this movie, Robosaurus, and another failed TV pilot called Baffled, in which Leonard Nimoy races race cars and has psychic visions and generally just wears like a lot of awesome 70s hats.
Yeah.
And it looked very cool. I'm not against the idea. Possible future episode Baffled, because we should talk about Leonard Nimoy one day.
We should talk about a Star Trek person eventually. We are talking about like potentially doing a Star Trek Captains series.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense. Yeah. And also when we do that, we should probably have some guests that
are Trekkies.
Yeah. Because I don't really have strong opinions on Star Trek one way or the other.
I watch TNG, that's it. Yeah.
I like it. It's good, but I'm not like a Trekkie by any means. But yeah, so I was debating which of these movies. You very graciously said, Kaz, I will let you pick the next movie. You didn't have to.
We don't have, like, behind the curtains, we don't have like a fucking dictatorship on like how we determine what movie. It's just sort of like, that could be fun. Yeah.
It could be fun. You are right, and you were right in this case. It was very fun. But so I said to myself, like, okay, I'll go home after work on Thursday. Both of these movies are short. They're like an hour and a half. So I'll watch Baffled and I'll watch Robosaurus. And then as I was at work, I came to the realization only one of these movies is about a Robosaurus. So I texted you and I just said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just do that one. Yeah. And it turned out to be the right call.
Because we are children at heart. And and then like on the one hand, if we're doing a series on failed TV pilots, Leonard Nimoy is best known as a TV actor. That would have really flowed into the theme quite nicely. But fucking Robosaurus, how can you deny? Yeah.
And I just was not really in the... I went through Leonard Nimoy's filmography and I'm like, I'm really not in the mood for breaking this down because it's a lot of TV. It's a lot of like really like weird niche stuff. Do I mention the Bilbo Baggins song? It kind of feels like a significant part of his career.
I mean, we could have mined some comedy from Leonard Nimoy. Absolutely. He's a fascinating cat.
He's an interesting dude, but you know what?
But Robosaurus.
We'll save that for the future.
When are we ever going to get a chance to say the words Robosaurus many times on this show?
It's just over and over again. Do not make a drinking game around that, because you won't be able to hear. You won't even make it to the plot breakdown. That's how often we're going to say Robosaurus.
It's kind of remarkable that this show got made the way that it did. Like when you think of Robosaurus and you're thinking, monster truck culture or whatever, you don't really anticipate a sci-fi cop series.
A chilling vision of the future that involves like psychic magic?
No, I mean,
no, not at all.
Like, in this day and age, like a Robosaurus TV show would probably like chronicle the events that build up to the making of Robosaurus, or like the behind the scenes trappings of what it's like to be the person who owns and operates Robosaurus. No, you're making a fucking cop series.
Well, the depressing thing, Jameson, is if they made a Robosaurus TV show today, he'd be entirely CGI.
Yeah.
That's the sucky thing. Like, this could only exist within the 90s.
Absolutely.
At a very specific moment in time. And, we're talking about the whole concept of this miniseries is TV pilots that never made it to air. I can certainly see why this never made it to series. It would have been the most expensive TV show ever made.
And what do you do with the premise, episode per episode?
Oh, look, I mean, look, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but if there was a TV show about, like, a world-weary cop and his magical black friend who solved crimes, the answer to all of their problems being manifesting Robosaurus to come and wreck the ever-living shit out of everything, yes, sign me the fuck up for that.
Sure.
I will watch that until it goes into syndication, thank you very much.
You'll watch 100 episodes of that.
Absolutely, but yeah, there's no way they could recoup their costs because they would have to build all these sets and then destroy those sets by the end of the... And it's like... What do? You run out of ideas eventually. It's like maybe we get to an episode where Robosaurus has to go like undercover. He's wearing a big mustache and a hat.
Yeah.
Is that Robosaurus? No, Robosaurus doesn't have a hat.
Yeah, they got to solve a case that takes him to the tropics, and he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt or whatever.
Because inevitably you would run into episodes where it's like, okay, maybe this episode. We pump the brakes. We have a little less Robosaurus.
Then the whole show falls apart.
The fans would outcry. Yeah, absolutely. My other reservation was I did run through some user reviews. Very few reviews on Letterboxd for this movie.
Oh, really?
I think mine was like the 23rd one that was submitted.
Hey, check it out, folks.
People I think mine's one of the more positive reviews on it. People, their main complaints seemed to be Robosaurus barely in this. So I was a little worried that we were going to see something where like Robosaurus shows up at like the last 5 minutes or whatever. He is throughout this movie, not necessarily the way I want him to, but he's in more of this movie than I thought he would be.
There is a presence. The true blue gigantic Robosaurus doesn't appear until like the last 10 minutes of the movie.
There are flash forwards.
Absolutely, and yeah, like he does have a presence.
They're
like,
baiting that hook. It's all like,
yeah.
I know this is a lot of bullshit right now, but trust me, Robosaurus is on his way.
Yes. And the lead up to that is just utter nonsense.
Yes.
So it keeps you invested no matter what.
So
yeah, if you're really anticipating seeing the Robosaurus throughout this movie, yeah, he doesn't show up until later in the movie, but
who boy?
But the ride to get there, yeah, the journey is just as important and as insane.
So, because we're not covering an actor today, I kind of don't have anything prepared. I could briefly talk about like the director of this movie, but maybe we can do that in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll save that.
You wanted to talk about some of the other possible episodes we could have done. Since we are talking about failed TV pilots turned TV movies, you know, there's a bunch out there that exist.
We looked at a couple that we thought would make for decent episodes. I decided Robosaurus is the way to go.
Because there were some that are a little more well-known in the realm of the internet. Something that I pitched early on is there was a failed TV pilot for a Justice League of America show that I think has gotten a little bit of infamy recently because of how shitty it is and how their take on the Justice League is, what if we made it like Friends? Because it's a lot of it's well, they say it's like Friends, but honestly it's a little more like The Office, because it's kind of like testimonials, and we've got like Green Lantern and the Flash talking directly to the camera.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm a big DC guy, and I haven't put eyes on that Justice League show. I think it is, like, as you say, a little infamous in ribbing culture, I guess, if we're a part of that. So yeah, I was a little adverse to doing that show.
So I suggested
and also it's like from the era where it's the Justice League, but the big three aren't a part of it. So, like, what's the fucking point?
No, the big three are, like, in this show are the only ones that carried over were Green Lantern, Flash, and Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. No disrespect to those three.
No,
they're great characters, but
but
they're no Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman.
And I believe the Atom is also on there. And then there are two female superheroes named Fire and Ice.
Yeah.
That I think maybe were actual DC comic superheroes.
They are, but they're like, yes.
They're like sea strainers.
Yeah, exactly.
We need a female presence in here, and we can't use Wonder Woman
or Hawk Girl.
I mean, they probably could have used Hawk Girl, but that's more of a cartoon. I don't know. Was that more of like, we need another woman on the team for the Warner Brothers animated thing, so let's choose Hawkgirl. Or was Hawkgirl ever canonically part of the Justice League?
I don't think so, but I also think it was a good choice having her like slotted in that 7th member spot. I don't know. It worked. She's got like a feistier personality. She's like the most aggressive of the.
That Justice League show is on Netflix right now. I've been catching up with on like my 3rd go around.
Yeah. Hot take. I think the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited show are better than the Batman animated series. I think it's the
that
best.
is a hot take.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with you, but I mean, maybe from like a
certainly from an animation perspective.
from an animation standpoint and a technical standpoint, but I've also been rewatching Batman the animated series.
As have I. Yeah.
I gotta say, you do notice the limits of the animation on that show, but also you're just kind of like tickled at what they were able to like pull off.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know?
Yo, absolutely. Tip my hat to the creators of that
Like,
show. There's a reason why it's standing the test of time as for being as groundbreaking as it is. I just think by the time Justice League rolled around, they've been doing this for like, what, 10 or so years.
The animation
They learned a lot.
better,
They learned a lot
course.
of stuff. They tightened up the writing, certainly. I think switching from a Saturday morning cartoon network to like a, I don't know, more like a teen, young adult network gave them more opportunities for like grander themes in their storytelling. Anyways. Anyways, Justice League.
Justice League, I pitched that. I also, in the realm of comic book adaptations, I also pitched the also infamous David Hasselhoff, Nick Fury, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Which I also think is a little well-known.
A little too well-known for,
Yeah.
for our purposes here. Yeah, we really want to go to the bottom of that barrel.
Yeah.
And what did we find? A Robosaurus.
We absolutely should cover David Hasselhoff sometime.
But
yeah.
there's material out there.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's been in some stuff.
I probably should watch that Nick Fury thing because I'm sure it's garbage.
Probably not good.
I love my trash.
Not great. Yeah.
You also suggested that George Carlin cop comedy.
I found a failed pilot that turned into an original Wonderful World of Disney movie called.
That was a Disney thing?
That was a Disney produced thing.
Whoa.
Called Just in Case, about a detective who's out to solve his own the biggest murder case of his life. His own. I almost gave the game away there. I think I recovered pretty well.
Yeah.
But this was like a movie that aired on the Disney Channel. It was directed by the great Blake Edwards of the Pink Panther series.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, so that could have been something. I also scrubbed through that. I also watched maybe 10 minutes of that. Seemed kind of boring.
Really?
Didn't seem like they were really giving George Carlin jokes.
Oh, well, then what's the fucking point?
I don't know if you know this is kind of his strong point.
Kind of what he's messed up.
But also, I mean, I know as time went on, he did a lot more family-friendly stuff. He's in a lot, like, Pixar movies and stuff, but, you know.
He was the conductor on
absolutely.
Thomas the Tank
I mean,
Engine,
we should have, look, we'll have to cover George Carlin one day.
Absolutely. Of the movies that you suggested, I was the most interested in covering George Carlin because I probably have the most to say about George Carlin. I don't know if I ever told you, but I did a stint at open mic comedy, for a brief couple of months.
You're a braver man than I.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not doing it anymore for a very good reason.
But still, getting up on that stage is the first step.
But yeah, I have a lot to say about comedians of his style and modern comedy. And I'm a big fan of George Carlin. I probably would have really enjoyed just talking about him for an episode. Like we'll cover that.
We'll cover that one day. And hey, as a bonus,
but probably something better, more. Not better, more.
Better, more.
Yeah.
We'll find
something better than just in case.
You've heard it here, folks. We'll cover something better, more. And hey, as an added bonus for that episode, Jameson, a very short filmography.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't in a lot of movies. So we don't have
music to my ears.
We can spend that time talking about his bits, his classic. The 7 words you can't say on television, which are all words that everyone says on television over and over again. Okay, what else did we suggest? There was what? You're laughing.
I suggested Puchinsky.
That's right.
Yeah. Peter Boyle, he's a cop who dies and he gets his spirit imbued into a bulldog.
Now, we've covered some short things before on this thing, but Puchinsky, I believe, is like barely 21 minutes long. So yeah, that's an episode of television. That's not a pilot. Pilots generally are like an hour to an hour and a half. So, but yeah, that is another infamous living on the internet. I believe,
like the full show is available on YouTube.
Yes, I believe I read about that first in the annals of Cracked.com, which I don't even think exists anymore. If it does, it's a shell. It's a shell of its former self.
Well, it does exist, and you're right. It is a shell of its former self. Yes. They quite famously axed all of their comedy writers, and now they're just posting memes.
Again, like George Carlin comedy. That's why we tuned in.
Yeah.
To you in the first place. Yeah. What else did I find? I did find that before the successful Bates Motel show that came out in the 2000s, 2010s, I think, there was a failed attempt to turn Psycho into a TV show in the 80s with Harold and Maude's Bud Cort as Norman Bates and Tank Girl's own Lori Petty.
That's right, yeah.
Didn't end up watching that, but I thought that could be a possibility. Yeah, it's interesting, the idea of turning Norman Bates into a TV character, given that, one of the few things we know about him is that he's a psycho.
Yeah.
And he kills people, so...
Yeah, and it's always interesting when they take premise of a movie and think they can stretch it out to a series.
I mean, it works sometimes.
Because it does.
MASH?
One of my favorite shows is Fargo. That's more of like an anthology, sort of in like tipping its hat in the spirit of the show.
That's a movie based on that's a show based on a movie that, to the best of my knowledge, has never really referenced the movie that it's based on. I think they kind of hint at it, right?
Oh, without spoiling it, there is a pretty big nod to it in the first season.
Okay,
in a very clever way, I'd say. That made me appreciate the movie even more. But yeah, like movies themselves are like they're complete stories.
Yes,
yeah.
well, they should be, absolutely.
Yeah,
but
there's a beginning and an end, and they're like, where do you go from there? It like should be a satisfying conclusion, barring some kind of like ambiguous ending, which could lead itself to a show. But
sure,
for the most part, movies are a complete story.
I would say that not every movie needs to be turned into a TV show. I mean, but tell that to Disney currently right now,
really.
Which is just turning every IP that it has into a limited series. But there are like great examples of movies that have turned into TV shows that don't really have much to do with the movie that they're based on, other than like the characters and the basic setup. An example that I can think of off the top of my head, the Martin Scorsese film Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, is about like a single mom who's just trying to figure some shit out, and she's moving to like a small town. She's getting away from a series of abusive boyfriends, and she lands in this one small town. She's like, we're only going to stay here until I make enough money, and then we'll move on, and I'll be like a singer in a club. And she gets a job as a waitress, and by the end of the movie, she starts getting romanced by Chris Christopherson. She's like, you know what, kid, maybe we'll stay here. And from that movie, that spun off into the TV sitcom Alice, which is just about a woman who works at a cafe, and that's basically it. It has the characters from the movie, but it's not as dramatic as the Scorsese movie. It's just like a light sitcom about some people who work in a diner.
You could have made that show without the movie as a precursor.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's like a weird example, a weird outlier.
Yeah, and it's not to say like what I was just saying about like you can't turn a movie into a TV show. Like that's, it's not that it can't be done and it can't be done well. It's just that in most movies, the characters have a clear motivation and a goal that they accomplish by the end of that story. And that just means that by the end, their story is done. It's just not that solid of a foundation to build, an entire long-running show on.
I feel like there are two types of TV show. Obviously, there's way more than two types, but like there are TV shows that have a definitive ending that they are building towards, and then there are TV shows that are somewhat designed to conceivably keep going forever until eternity. You're Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where the concept is people are awful, and it's all like, well, this can go ad nauseum.
Limitless potential.
Doesn't need to be an ending to this, compared to something like Game of Thrones, where it's all like, this has an ending. We're moving towards something. Or taking something not as serious as Game of Thrones, like How I Met Your Mother. Eventually, they had to meet the mother.
Yeah.
So,
citing two examples that have notoriously bad endings.
Well, that's the other thing, man. It's hard to end a TV show.
Yeah.
There's only maybe like a handful of like TV finales that people don't have issues with.
You know what I always thought had good potential for a TV series was Inception. Like, you don't include Leo, don't include those characters, but the world of that, of like entering people's dreams.
The technology.
Yeah.
Another team is like dealing with it.
They did so much world building in that movie that like, why can't other people take that torch and run with it?
That's a great idea, and like Nolan I know Jonathan Nolan created Westworld, but was Christopher involved in any capacity in that? Or
you're asking the wrong guy. I didn't see that show.
Well, I don't know. There's a precedent for Nolan-based TV out there. But maybe he just doesn't want it. Maybe he's all like, no, my films are masterpieces, and they must exist, and you must see them in the theater, and you must see them in IMAX cameras.
Good Lord.
That's the thing about television, Jameson. It's very hard to shoot in IMAX.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, you gotta watch the numbers a little bit better on that, which is surprising that they decided to make a fucking Robosaurus TV show.
Well, they
because
tried.
That thing looks expensive as fuck to operate.
oh yeah.
half the budget for the show has to go towards gasoline. I have to imagine.
Look, I don't know the story behind Robosaurus about like the production of it.
I looked into it too. There's very little.
There's
nothing actually.
I can ascertain though that the producers got their hands on an unused Truckosaurus robot from a defunct monster truck rally or whatever, and it was like, how do we make a story around this? And they came up with this, and then they filmed it, and I guess it aired one time. Or whatever, and then it got released on VHS in foreign markets as Robosaurus. Let me tell you, those foreign markets, smart people.
Yeah. I just love the idea that there's like some coked up Hollywood city slicker bigwig that went to a monster truck rally, fell in love with Robosaurus, and then found like the blue collar hayseed type that owns and operates this stupid thing. He's like, this is money written all over. It's like, sure, we'll let you make a TV show with the Robosaurus.
I'll lease out the Robosaurus for you, but I need a small role I need a walk on. And I need a walk on for my 5 daughters.
Because God, this does not have the people that would go to a monster truck rally as the target demographic.
Absolutely not. I don't know what demographic this is for, but it's not the demographic of people who want to see cars crushed into mulch.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, is a very large demographic. There's very few people who don't enjoy seeing cars go vroom vroom, crunch crunch, right?
You can be the most highbrow, sophisticated person in the world, but I think the appeal of just seeing one big machine crushing another machine is universally beloved.
Like you know the thing. You've been to a multitude of monster truck rallies in your life, as have I. We know the stereotype. We know there's always one big wig dude up in the rafters, and everyone's like cheering for Bigfoot or whatever, and he's
Gravedigger,
and he's just like, yes, quite.
He's got the opera glasses.
Dude, I want to do that now. Actually, if there's like a monster truck rally,
go in a tuxedo.
I think they have. I think my sister said she and her husband went to one recently, so maybe I'll find that out. That would be great. I would love to have the opera glasses. I have like a play, make my own playbill that I bring up. That would be great. That would be fun.
You got to drink a beer out of like a martini glass
Absolutely.
or something.
And don't fucking videotape yourself doing that. Don't make it into a TikTok. Do it for the bit. Just do it for the bit and
live in the moment, folks.
Absolutely.
That's what Robosaurus is all about. He teaches.
All right, we're at the 30-minute mark.
Yeah, we did it.
Enough time?
We stretched out this opening.
Let's get into this plot. So we'll take a little break, and when we come back, we're going, right, we're going to get some justice. Some steel justice.
I can't wait.
Oh, quite droll. Oh, yes. Oh, and we're back.
We are.
Steel Justice, aka Robosaurus. I'm just gonna stop calling it Steel Justice. It's written and directed by Christopher Crowe. Now, as a screenwriter, this guy actually has some pretty impressive credits. He co-wrote Last of the Mohicans.
Really?
With Michael Mann.
Whoa.
He also wrote the movie Fear. Remember Fear?
No.
Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon are on the poster, and they're kind of canoodling, but oh no, Mark Wahlberg, he's looking right at us, and he has this look, it's like, maybe I'm bad. Fear!
Okay, sure.
Tell the audience you've never seen a movie by telling the audience you've never seen a movie, Kaz. Fear. I feel like that's a pretty classic 90s poster. But as a director, Christopher Crowe has directed 3 other movies that fundamentally do not exist. He directed another TV movie, another Justice-adjacent TV movie. This time it's Streets of Justice. With Robert Loggia and Lance Henriksen.
Wow.
Then one of 2 movies he made that actually made it to movie theaters is the 1988 film Off Limits, which stars Willem Dafoe and Gregory Hines as Buck McGriff and All Baby Perkins.
All Baby?
Not Albany, as I first thought. I took a look at the credits again. The name of the character is A.L. Baby. All Baby.
All Baby.
I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. But yeah, they're plainclothes U.S. military policemen in that movie.
Okay.
And then after that, he does 1992 erotic thriller Whispers in the Dark, which has just one of the worst posters I've ever seen in my life.
Oof.
It's really unfortunate.
Oof.
They got like a bunch of words here, and then there's like a lady, not even in silhouette. Like, it's her right eye and her lips are spotlighted.
They cut up her face,
but not in like a violent way.
No,
but like, yeah.
And then they have text going through the lips.
The lips are
badly through the lips.
Yes, the lips are very prominent.
Ugh, it's gross.
I can imagine why this movie didn't catch on if that was the marketing for that one. But yeah, in between all of that, he wrote and directed a little film called Robosaurus.
He certainly did, and we are eternally grateful.
And he changed the world. Yeah, so this movie starts off amazingly. With the Universal Studios logo. I wasn't expecting that.
No, we. Again, like, we're always blown away whenever we see such a prestige studio is responsible for a movie like this. And also, amazingly, no other production
just that
logos.
one.
No.
I think they must have been the ones that handled whatever VHS distribution that this movie had. It must have just been under, like, their titles. But even then, usually if they're just doing, like, home video stuff, they don't shell out the big bucks for like the rotating globe and like and it's like the 90s Universal logos, which is like the best one that they ever had. It was like the most like grand and opulent or whatever, and it has like
it's the more sweeping orchestral rather than like the bombastic Superman-esque theme.
Like when that thing comes up, you're all like, man, I'm getting fucking ready to watch a movie, god damn it.
Oh yeah.
Now we should say, we've said this many times before, but this movie only exists on YouTube, and it is probably one of the worst transfers we've ever watched.
Oh, yeah.
It's like just a step above Son of Dracula in terms of being able to tell what is going on. The one saving grace that this has is that the audio is crisp.
Oh, yeah.
I could hear every word going on, which helped because a lot of the times it was gray blobs talking to each other.
Oh, yeah. It seems like it's in pitch black for the most part because the aesthetic is neon noir looking, which I'm a fan of, but like in a really shitty VHS quality rip that this is, yeah, it looks like garbage.
Yeah, not great. But before any of that,
but I will say, like, it seems well shot. It's just poor quality.
It's if I could see it, it would probably look decent. It would probably look all right.
Yeah.
But I really couldn't see most of it.
Yeah.
But what I could hear are these amazing opening credits.
Yeah, you texted me.
Holy shit, that song's a fucking banger.
Yeah, what did I write down? It's like a minecart chase music from a video game.
Yeah, it was very video gamey. Yeah. And we get like the opening credits that are like overlaid with like ancient cartography.
Yeah, medieval paintings. Not what I was expecting for like this sci-fi futuristic setting.
Nope. And the first image that we see doesn't clear things up immediately.
Nope.
Eventually we figure out what's going on here. And the opening of this movie was not how I thought Robosaurus was going to go.
No, we see some warlock druids at Stonehenge, setting up the mystical element of our Robosaurus futuristic movie.
We go to Stonehenge, then we go to the Trojan horse.
Well, what happens is that there is we'll get into it, but there's a character, a magical black man character, who throughout human history is inspiring people to do like important historical events. So he inspires the druids to make Stonehenge. He carves out a horse, and that inspires a Trojan warrior to make the wooden horse.
Now, what we eventually find out about this character, who we will introduce in full as the movie parcels out the information, is that he is actually like helping these individuals in history to manifest things through the power of their mind.
Important things.
Important things. So it's not just that he's there at like the building of Stonehenge. We see him like talking to a druid. The druid kind of goes into like a bit of a trance, and then Stonehenge appears. He's talking to, I guess, Achilles or whoever, and like Achilles is holding up like this miniature horse made carved out of wood, and then the next scene, the Trojan horse is there, and it's like, but like it took me 2 watches of this movie to figure out, oh, that's what's going on, because it's indecipherable. Even if I was able to see what was going on, I would be lost in this moment.
First go around, you're wondering, what the fuck does this have to do with Robosaurus? Where's Robosaurus?
When are we getting to the fireworks factory?
Yeah.
And so this movie is actually about a world-weary cop.
Oh, yeah.
In the distant 21st century.
He is a broken shell of a man who is mourning the death of his young son and the recent divorce from his wife. You get the vibe that he's he's at the butt end of the cigarette. He is
well said.
He's burnt out and he's reckless and he's jaded and all the other cops are worried about him. I never got broken shell of a man from this very handsome looking leading man type.
Who was pretty personable in most of the scenes and pretty agreeable. This character's name is Detective David Nash. He's played by Australian actor Robert Taylor. He was an Australian actor in the 90s, so of course he shows up in The Matrix as one of the agents.
Oh, really?
He also has a small role in The Meg. You ever see The Meg?
I haven't seen The Meg.
He's in that. He's like the guy at the beginning of the movie that's all like, I don't like you, Jason Statham. And then by the end of the movie, he's all like, you know what, Jason Statham, you're okay.
You're better than a giant shark.
And then he feeds himself to the Meg, so Jason Statham can escape.
Okay.
But Detective David Nash, he's taking a little nap while on a stakeout.
Yeah, he's plagued with these visions of the magical black man.
And he wakes up and his partner, Gina
Morelli.
Gina Morelli, played by special guest star Season Hubley. Her name is in the credits as special guest star Season Hubley, and I said to myself, who is that? And I looked up this woman, and I'm still not sure. The best I can say, and this is, I don't love to describe actresses this way, because obviously she's more than just this, but she's Kurt Russell's ex-wife.
Okay.
And she actually played Priscilla Presley in the Elvis TV miniseries that Kurt Russell played Elvis in.
Really?
That's like her top credit. So I don't quite know how she gets the special guest star based on that, but apparently she was in more stuff than I realized.
A damn good agent, I suppose.
Absolutely, and
yeah. I didn't even know Kurt Russell had a wife that wasn't Goldie Hawn.
Hey, he's lived a life, man.
He certainly has.
Do you know he did like 10 years of Disney movies before he did any John Carpenter stuff?
Oh, yeah. We gotta cover Kurt Russell someday.
We will. It'll be a long filmography.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll have to
take it back.
I'll have to cherry pick it. But no, absolutely, we'll cover Kurt Russell one day. Detective Gina, she's a lovely lady.
She's his partner in crime busting, I suppose. Yeah.
And she wants to be his partner and a little bit more, but we won't find that out until much later in the thing.
Yeah.
So they go outside. They're on the case of this gun runner Lopez.
Sure.
And we step outside, and 2 things become readily apparent about this future version of the world. This basically is just wholesale ripping off Blade Runner.
Oh, in more ways than one. Did you see them reuse the fucking geisha video?
I don't think it's like the geisha video from the movie, but look, you can't have a geisha commercial on a big screen in your sci-fi futuristic video. That's just Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Blade Runner has that cornered. Yeah. That's their thing. I'm sorry.
This is clearly like the Blade Runner aesthetic done on the cheap. There's like 12 TVs stacked on top of each other showing the same video in that, Circuit City way that they did back in the 90s. There's a lot of neon lights. There's many string lights, like fiber optic rope lights that they wrap around balconies.
That's how we have to light things in the future.
Yeah. There's one part where there's like a camel walking on the screen. Just so you know. Oh, you didn't see the camel?
I watched this movie twice. I didn't see the camel either time.
All right, well, there's a camel.
Couldn't make out anything in this fucking movie.
So there's a camel at one point.
All right.
But it's...
Blade Runner didn't have a camel.
No, it certainly
didn't.
Maybe
it did.
But
there's like 3 versions of that movie. Maybe there's a camel in one of them.
Yeah. So this is a world that has been ravaged by environmental disasters, and they hint that there is like a war in Asia. It's
the Central Asian Wars of the late 90s.
Yes, thank you.
What I wrote down.
So, I mean, it's just a futuristic dystopia, really. Yeah.
So they step outside into this world, and you can tell that they took the right lesson from Blade Runner by stealing its visual aesthetic. They also took the wrong lesson from Blade Runner and having our main character endlessly narrate through this movie.
Jesus Christ, the voiceovers.
This is the worst part of the movie. It's a mostly enjoyable schlock fest, but my God, this dude needed to shut the fuck up.
My name's David Nash. I'm a cop working the B sector of the city. After the Central Asian Wars of the late 1990s, 21st century, the whole world had moved here. This resulted in grossly overcrowded conditions and environmental rights. We've gotten word that we've come a 24-hour-day world. Last 20 years, the violent crime destroyed a culmination of 6 months of intense investigation. Specialized in nailing the 12.
And this narration just comes in and out of scenes, and it shows up and it's like, it's the type of narration where he's like describing events that we just saw him do. It's all like he goes to the fridge, he pours himself a glass of milk. I went to the fridge and poured myself a glass of milk because it always makes me feel better. We saw you do it, man.
Yeah, and if it's not that, it'll be cases where he just says, I didn't realize it at the time, but this actually impacts the story later on. And it's like, why not let us, the audience, find this out for ourselves?
No, we're dum-dums.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not smart.
We're watching a Robosaurus movie.
I think maybe that's what they were thinking. Is all. We're making a show about a robot dinosaur. We really got to dumb it down for people.
Yeah, you're making this too smart. So yeah, they find like the gun runner in one of the hotel buildings, but he goes on the run, and that's where David Nash sees the magical black man from his dreams actually in the apartment, and he directs him to, like, this is where the criminal went.
He does a lot of pointing.
He does
at this early stage in the movie, I'm all like, I know this character is going to be important. So far, all he's done is like gesture. He's always been all like, maybe you should go this way.
Yeah.
We also meet some of the other members of the cop squad
who have names, but like they're kind of introduced so quickly, and they don't really factor in. And some of them come and go throughout the movie that I don't think they really matter.
They don't really matter. I do want to mention Detective Steve Totten, who wears sunglasses all the time. And look, there are 3 prominent black characters in this movie. 2 of them are like jive talking cool guys, and the other
dialogue they give these gentlemen,
and the other one is literally magic. So not great representation.
Not at all.
But like you did get like the impression that like this character in particular is all like, okay, we need to set this character up for future episodes. We're not going to give him like anything to do in this, but like we really need to give him like a ton of personality.
Yeah.
So like he and David have like a secret handshake where it's like,
what was that?
I'm gonna slap 5, but actually it's the back of my palm.
It's a backhanded high five.
It's a future handshake is what it is.
Really.
That's how we do it in the future. But
it's like when everyone would do elbow bumps to each other.
Yeah.
During the COVID
and this
time.
guy is like
he's the comedy relief.
He's the comedy relief, like
because he's a jive talking black man.
Absolutely. So yeah, and so they get into a shootout with the gun runner, the bad boy.
Yeah,
and
he goes on a rooftop chase. At one point, the gun runner uses a ladder to cross a gap between 2 buildings, and then removes the ladder. And David Nash decides to leap across the building and crash through an apartment window. That concerns. I mean, what a dumb move that guy did.
It's funny because afterwards, the chief or whoever is talking to Gina is all like, "Did you hear about that jump he made?" And she's all like, "Yeah, I heard it was pretty fucking sick." And the
man could have died.
Yeah, and the chief is just all like, "No, that's like the actions of like a man who has like nothing left to live. What are you talking about, Linetti?" They're like, "No, maybe I need to suspend you."
You hear about that jump he made?
Yeah. I heard it was beautiful.
No.
Yeah, so they get into a shootout. I guess Lopez or whoever grabs a hostage, and in the ensuing scuffle, the hostage is murdered. I didn't see this happen, but several characters tell me it happened. So that happens. But yeah, the crook gets caught because Nash fires off like the perfect wounding shot, despite the fact that he is on top of a building.
Yeah.
And he is at street level. But no, he wounds him just enough so he can get arrested.
Yeah.
It's at this point, like, we're slowly starting to be introduced to like future speak. You know?
Yeah.
Like they say a couple of times
Oh, what do they call? Oh yeah, a righteous bust.
They say it's a righteous bust because the Detective Shades, 'cause I can't remember his name, is like, oh, does your leg hurt? And the captain's all like, hey, for once, we have a righteous bust. Don't mess this up for me. And then later on, I guess like the DA comes back and it's like, no, he's gonna walk. Because what we didn't mention is earlier, Gina and David are going to this guy's house, and the way they get him is they set a little bag of trash on fire.
Yeah, they try to start a fire, and she yells, "Fire, fire!" And that's when the guy blows a gun through the door.
Fire! Fire! Everybody, fire!
Good going, Marai.
I said fire. He fired.
Which made me laugh.
So yeah, so it's not, they lost probable cause or whatever. They did sneaky underhanded tricks. So of course the guy's gonna walk. But it's here where we start like learning some things about the future. They don't really overload this movie with like future talk and future descriptors of things, but there's like a few things I noticed. For one thing, lawyers aren't referred to as lawyers in the future. They're referred to as shysters. I thought that was interesting.
Yep.
We also learn that because global warming is happening at like an increased length, that ice has become like a big commodity. And and that's not like street slang for like drugs. No, we literally mean blocks of ice.
Yeah, we need ice. Yeah.
So I guess
there's a line coming up that I'll bring it up when it comes to it. But yeah, ice is a rarity, and it's in high demand.
I guess in the future we lost the ability to generate our own ice within our homes.
Yeah.
Like we had been doing for a while. No, we've gone back to the 50s where a guy comes in a truck and brings you a big block of ice with the big clamps or whatever. And of course, drug lords have now turned that into like a commodity or whatever. It's very vague.
Yeah.
But it's like, and we see like warehouses full of ice, but like no one's wearing coats. So that raises several questions as to
open, non-frigid warehouse right next to a room full of fire because it's a sci-fi movie on a TV budget. But yeah, like the idea is that crime is running rampant, and like the streets are flooded with gangs that are running ice, and the cops are at a massive disadvantage. Yeah, it's that old.
They all have these futuristic machine guns referred to as scorpions,
which are just machine guns.
Which are just like really powerful machine guns.
But the hot new weapon that's hitting the market are fucking rocket launchers, and
which
bazookas.
I'm sure have like a stupid name. And the bazookas will become very relevant very soon, because after the crook walks
and the cops go to the bar to sort of like complain about justice not being served. David Nash excuses himself to, I don't know, laser microwave himself a meal.
That was the one. So this is the one thing. There's not like a ton of like future tech in this movie, but this is like the one moment it was all like, here's how shit's different in the future. We don't have microwaves anymore. We put our raw food on like a little circle on our counter,
blast it with a laser,
and then just like and it's a very cheap effect, obviously, because they just literally shone some LED lasers over this food, and then he starts eating it. So I'm like, that's kind of an interesting idea. That's immediately ruined by the fact that he clearly takes a sip out of an empty bottle. Yep. I don't know if you noticed that, but I immediately did. It's all like, well, that's a cool little thing that they did, and there's nothing in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he excuses himself because he says he has to go see the big game. The team is called the Bullets. I thought that was funny, and then he leaves.
There was a basketball team called the Bullets in the 90s, but they changed it to the Wizards.
Ah. Hey, maybe they're referring to that.
Sports Bomb!
They never say what game it is. They just say the game.
He says he has to excuse himself to watch a game, but one of the cop friends says, hey, it's an away game. He wouldn't have to go to the game. But out of the realm of possibility that their friend wants to go to, I don't know, a sports bar to watch it, but whatever.
And then hilariously, Detective Shade's all like, make mine next to quadruple.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like this guy. This guy is also, they're also taking bets on whether or not the crook that they just arrested will walk or get sentenced, and Detective Shades is the only one
that bets that he'll get off,
and he gets all the money, and
the drinks are on me.
And it's so embarrassing.
Are you a fucking cop?
He's basically James Brown in this moment, because he's like doing spins and jumps and whatever, and it's like, man, no one told this guy to tone it down. If anything, they told him to play it up even more.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, because he never becomes a significant character.
Nope. Yeah, so David Nash has a flashback that explains what happened to his kid.
He got blown the fuck up.
He got
is
blown
what happened.
Yeah. There was a drive-by bazookaing of his kid.
This is also the first time in this movie we see Robosaurus, who at this point in time is simply a children's toy, but it's maybe the most elaborate toy in the world. We see more flashback footage of the two of them building the robot together, and I guess
which is a massive fucking toy.
I guess this is
like
just
a
like
3-foot high Robosaurus.
You can just construct this, and you can give it whatever features you want, because he says in the video that he watches, like, I thought we were making a robot, and the kid's all like, well, it could be half robot, half dinosaur. So I was like, okay, I guess you can just make those decisions on the fly, sure. This guy doesn't seem like he has a background in engineering. This totally just appears to be something you can buy at a store.
Yeah, like you can carve something like this out of wood.
It's a very bulky toy. It takes up a lot of room.
Oh yeah.
It kind of looks like Crow from Mystery Science Theater 3000.
A little, I suppose.
He's kind of got like the ears,
a little fin and everything.
A little fin in the back. I don't know. I thought that was funny, but yeah. So yeah,
but
he's holding up the Robosaurus. The kid's in the car, and then he blows up.
And like the kid loves this fucking toy, and he breaks it down. He protects the good guys, and he goes after the bad guys, just like you, Dad. And I love Robosaurus. He's the protector of humanity. Product placement for Robosaurus.
I did like. They should have been a tie-in. There really should. I did like.
It is. It is a fucking
no, but
huge marketing campaign.
I meant
for
the
Robosaurus.
toy. I didn't mean like the giant robot at the monster truck. Then I meant like you too can have your own Robosaurus at home.
Available now.
And all the parents watching are like, absolutely not. That's not. That's not coming in the house.
Yeah, $200. Fuck that.
I did like, and that's $1992. So yeah. I did like the one kind of line delivery of the kid, because kid actors are always very hit and miss. I sensed that this kid was a little uncomfortable around the actor playing his dad. They didn't really have any chemistry. I did like the fact when they're building the toy. At first he says like he's half robot, half dinosaur, Robosaur, and then he talks more about attributes and he says, but I don't think his name should be Robosaur. What should his name be? Robosaurus. I just like it's that great type of like kid logic. It's like, we shouldn't call him this thing. We should call him this thing. That's like basically the same name as the first thing.
It's the sort of thing that maybe a 4 or 5-year-old would say.
Absolutely.
And then you write, oh, that's just adorable kid speak. This kid's like fucking 11.
Yeah, this kid's maybe a little too
held
old.
back.
Yeah, I didn't want to make fun of a child that was blown up seconds after I'm introduced to him, but it's a real dorky looking kid. He got like a dorky hat on.
Oh yeah, like the brightest yellow hat, which really sticks out in this neon noir.
They really needed that hat to like slowly float back into place after the burning wreckage of the car happens.
Yeah. So we meet our villain, who's named the Colonel.
Yes.
Who I was really hoping would talk in a southern accent.
Roland Duggins, the Colonel, who's played by Roy Brocksmith, who is in Total Recall. He's the guy that shows up kind of midway through the movie and tries to convince Arnold that everything that's happened hasn't happened to him, but then the one bead of sweat goes down his head and Arnold shoots him. Very memorable little scene for that character.
I remember him, as I often remember these kinds of actors. He was in an episode of Seinfeld. Yeah, he was the landlord of this one building that Kramer has to break into to get a jacket from.
Right.
Yeah.
So, go...
Anyway.
You know what? This criminal's name is Gomez. I'm not sure if that is his name in the thing, but I'm calling him that because I can't think of his name. And I can't be bothered to look up the name of the character.
Yeah.
So he's summoned to the lair of the Colonel.
And what a lair.
Oh, man. Okay, so here's the other thing about the distant future. Apparently, in the future, there is no DJs. There is no, like, recorded music. Everyone needs to make their own... like diegetic music no matter where we go, because we go to this criminal's lair and it is like filled wall to wall with goons. Like this guy has like a criminal empire. There's like 100 people in this building, and every single person, bar none, is banging on fucking metal pipes.
Yep.
It's like you enter this club or whatever, and it's all like, welcome, here are your sticks. Here are your banging sticks.
Make your own music.
And everyone is like keeping like the same rudimentary beat. And it's the weirdest fucking thing. And only Gomez is the one he's the only one that's dancing to it and having good it's like everyone in this building only exists for his entertainment. And it's like they've clearly rehearsed. Because they're like on on beat.
Oh yeah. Perfect timing. Yeah, just a gang full of percussionists. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and the Colonel's office, it's one of those settings where, you know, it's all red. They have a spinning fan with a light going through it. There's a lot of gothic candles that are
He's got a little tiny dog.
He's got a little tiny chihuahua and he's wearing gloves and everything. Yeah, and so he is this trucking magnate. And he is supplying ice across the city, and
it's no big shocking reveal that he was tangentially connected to the death of Nash's son.
Yeah, I guess he's also a gun runner himself.
Yeah,
and
he's the villain. Of course, he was connected to that in some way.
And he summons these two gang leaders, Gomez and Tyrone,
who has an icicle through his hair.
Yeah, it's like a chopstick or something.
It's the weirdest hairstyle I've ever seen.
Yeah, and he's also a jive talking black man.
Yeah,
and I don't know why he's summoning Gomez, but I guess he's disappointed for getting caught and getting off.
Yeah, well, yeah, he got caught, and the police confiscated his weapon momentarily, and Gomez is like, I got it back. It's all like, yeah, but they've seen it, and that could tie it back to me.
Yeah.
So I've just called you in here to basically berate you for doing this thing, but what I've really done is I've called you in to murder you.
Yes.
Because I'm showing Tyrone my new
bazooka
merchandise that can take down F-14s or whatever he says. And as Gomez gets into his car, they're up on the he's basically like, Tyrone, hang out a bit. I want to show you something cool. Come over here. Yeah. And he blows him up.
I like how he's showing off these bazookas to Tyrone, and he's like, yeah, cool, but like I just kind of need weapons for drive-by shootings.
Yeah,
you know? This is a lot of overkill, man.
I don't want to shoot planes out of the sky, but the Colonel is not a man who takes no for an answer.
No, and he's also holding a goddamn bazooka, and you don't say no to a guy holding a bazooka.
Well, but what he does, it's very odd, because he tells Tyrone to shop around with his competition, and then he systematically destroys his competition, so Tyrone doesn't have any other option but to buy to him. But yeah, he could have just threatened him.
Yeah.
He could have just done it there and saved some time. But anyway, yeah. We're also introduced to Jared, who is
a singing henchman.
A singing henchman who always sings a little song when he's out murdering. He never sings a song that I recognize, though.
No, but I get the feeling they're like old standards.
They might be old standards, but if you also told me this actor was making that up as he went along, I would believe that too. And speaking of Seinfeld, did you recognize this actor, James?
No, actually.
He was Kramer's buddy who pirated the movies.
I just watched that episode.
That's him. Wow. That's the guy.
Okay.
See, I recognize someone from Seinfeld.
Wow. All right, I'm just going to preemptively enter Seinfeld into our Hall of Fame because we seem to bring that up a lot.
I think we bring up Seinfeld about as often as we bring up The Simpsons, so that's pretty.
All right, Simpsons and Seinfeld, you're in.
You're on the. You're in the rafters.
You've been anointed.
You've got jerseys.
Mm-hmm. Nash keeps having these visions of the black man showing him, the gigantic Robosaurus.
He keeps showing him visions of what the end of the movie will look like. Yeah. He goes to a psychiatrist who has the biggest ceiling fan I've ever seen in my entire life.
You could hear the whoosh.
What was going on with that? That's certainly, like, the blades are actually too big. Mm-hmm. That I actually feel like it would do, like, the opposite of cool the room down at this point. If anything, it would make it hotter.
But, I mean, that does play into the fact that, the world now is uncomfortably hot, so... you need air moving at all times, I guess.
I honestly kept forgetting that was, like, an element, that everyone's supposed to be, like, way too hot all the time. Because I feel like the movie forgets about it.
Well, it doesn't help that everyone is in these long trench coats and everything. It doesn't really invite the idea that this is a world that's gone, way too hot to live in. So right now there's a rampage with the gangs going around. Jared's using rocket launchers to blow up, I guess.
Blows up his competition in the middle of the day on like
one of the few daytime
scenes on a completely vacant street, because this clearly was like a mall, it was like a miniature.
It was the set, the set where the entire movie takes place. That scene is opened with a little person riding a tricycle because it's the Blade Runner weird future.
I loved some of the editing in this movie. movie because, yeah, I forget what happened immediately before that, but it was like David is like investigating his dreams and he's all like, I hadn't been in a public library since high school. Cut to strippers? Like it was like a smash cut too. Like it's like a lot of the editing really made me laugh.
You know, it's been a while since I've been in the public library. Is that what they've turned into?
It was a different. I think we've also forgot to mention one of the few name actors in this movie. David goes back to his apartment and he is met by his next door neighbor Lisa.
Nicole, I think her name is.
Nicole, thank you. Played by Joan Chen. Now, at this point in time, Joan Chen had been the second lead in the Oscar-winning Best Picture, The Last Emperor. She had been on 30 episodes of Twin Peaks. She was like a known Chinese-American actress who did not need to be in Robosaurus.
No.
One wonders what she's doing here. And if she thought this would be like her next series? Because Twin Peaks had wrapped up by that point, so like I gotta get on another show.
Interesting.
It's like she's just like a very ancillary character. She really does nothing other than hit on this man who is giving her nothing but red flags. Like, madam, you
have options. You have better options.
You need to recognize this guy is going through something right now.
You don't need to go after your next door neighbor.
But it's a weirdly big actor to be playing this role, and it was kind of odd to see her. She's perfectly fine, but it's I don't know why she said yes to this.
She's set up to be the lady that he moves on with. He gets over his divorced wife and whatever. The life he could be having if he were to just get over his trauma.
His divorced wife, who very prominently is not a character in this, so it's all like, well, we can cast a name actor when it goes to series, because eventually the wife will come back.
Did you catch her first line? The reason that she goes to see him is because
I did.
We got our mail mixed up. No, your mail came through my fax terminal.
Fax technology is only going to get more and more complicated as the future goes on, Jameson.
In the future, we all use fax machines.
Well, because of course this is like a vision of the future that's from 1992, so it's before like text messaging and things it's before Google, so we all live in a world where it's like, oh, I need to know the name of like this one trucking company. It's got like an Arabian Nights theme to it. Well, there's no way we'll ever know what that is. We have no technology where we can look up something based on vague information.
There's no directory whatsoever. No, it's like, have you heard this? No, fuck. That was
then I guess that's it.
That's our only lead.
We hit another brick wall. God damn it. Okay, so
David Nash investigates that truck that got blown up. He recognizes like a piece of ordnance that was involved in his son getting bazooka.
Well, right before this, he goes to the psychiatrist and he comes to the determination, I shouldn't be a cop right now. I'm going through something like psychologically wrong. I should turn in my badge and my gun. And he goes to the scene of this burning wreckage and he goes up to his captain or whoever, and he is very clearly about to quit. He's about to like turn in his badge and his gun. There's no disguising what he's about to do. Then his partner comes over, shows him what you just said, shows him a thing, and then he, on a dime, immediately just starts yelling at witnesses. And if I were his captain, I'd be like, no, you
were right.
You were right. You were about to quit, and I agree with you. But he says nothing, and he immediately moves on. His analysis of himself is correct. He should not have a gun or a badge. But no, he starts yelling at witnesses, and who should be among them?
Yep. Magical black man. Who, I'm going to stop calling him that now.
He now introduces himself as Jeremiah J. Johns.
Jonas.
No, Jeremiah.
Jeremiah
J. Johns.
I thought it was J. Jonas. Jeremiah J. Jonas.
It's not that one for one, unfortunately.
Damn it. All right.
It's that, but it's Jeremiah J. Johns.
Who are you?
Jeremiah J. Jonas.
Who was played by J.A. Preston, who had a big year in 1992. Not only was he in Robosaurus, but he also played the judge in A Few Good Men. So the real spectrum of Hollywood roles.
The toast to Hollywood in this, yeah.
And I wrote down a lot of this.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's so good.
So yeah, he's recognized him multiple times now. He's like, you are the man from my dreams.
Yeah, which... oh, go on.
Oh, my. And he said, and
You're the man of my dreams.
And Jeremiah is kind of like giving him like the runaround. It's like, I saw you in that vacant room. Well, if I was in the room, how could it be vacant? Ooh. It's a lot of that type of nonsense. And I literally wrote this down because I literally paused and wrote all this down because it's amazing.
He's like, all right, you, what have you seen?
I've seen the last dragon slayed in Britain. I saw Joan of Arc call out to God, and a German realize man could fight disease and win. I saw Halley's Comet 14 times. I saw Lincoln cry, and the Wright brothers laugh. But I've never seen a man who needed to heal himself as much as you, David.
All right. This is a dead end.
Going down. Come on. And yeah,
I'm arresting you for drunken disorderly behavior.
His immediate response is, all right, well, I'm arresting you.
Which is the right call.
Even though I've literally had multiple dreams about you. Somehow,
you're clearly a crazy
somehow
man.
involving my child's toy. Yeah, it's the Hooskow for you, buddy. And he takes him in, and they do a background check on him, and the one cop is all like, he doesn't exist. There's no file on him whatsoever. Yeah. Sure, you didn't dream this guy up?
What?
And then he talks to him. Oh yeah, and it's here we get
the desk sergeant, our celebrity cameo, which I was blown away when I saw this. You texted me and it was like, "Whoa, surprise uncredited cameo," and I'm like watching the movie, like who am I recognizing? I don't recognize. Kaz knows a lot more celebrities than I do. You know, I can't pick anyone up. And then who should show up in the middle of this fucking movie but Arlie Ermy, the drill sergeant from
just out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, like Full Metal Jacket.
I'm literally watching the movie, taking my notes. I'm going, whoa, fuck him! I didn't know he was in this. Mm-hmm. And then I immediately went to IMDb. You'll go to IMDb and you'll look at like the cast list for something, and very often you'll see someone there, but then next to their role, next to their character role, in brackets, it will say uncredited.
Yeah.
Arlie Ermy is not in the cast list on IMDb for Robosaurus. He, for all intents and purposes, like shortly before his death, he scrubbed Robosaurus from his CV.
Yeah.
Either that or he legitimately forgot that he was in it. I would believe both.
Yeah.
But he's not in the end credits. He's not credited anywhere on the internet, but it is undeniably Arlie Ermy. It's not just someone who looks like him. That is that is Arlie Ermy.
That is him. Yeah.
It's very weird. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, he's well known for playing the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket. Great at that as well.
Oh yeah,
because he was in the military.
He was an actual drill sergeant, and like that movie.
And then just decided he'd be an actor.
Yeah, and this movie was Full Metal Jacket was like 1987, so this is 1992. Not that long after Full Metal Jacket, so he's like a known quantity. He's like a known guy.
Yeah, but like I don't know what else he was in 7, and he was in this Toy Story movies. But that's all I know.
No, he's in like a bunch. He's in a bunch of stuff you've never heard of, Jameson. Okay. He had like a full ass career.
Really?
Yeah. You know.
Well, he's in this.
He's in Robosaurus. He would like you to think that he wasn't, but he is. We saw it with our own eyes.
Yeah. And he asked what your major malfunction is.
We are now the record on the internet that Arlie Ermy appears in this movie.
Yeah, he thought he could get away from it, but no.
Sneaky.
He's spitting in his grave.
So Nash goes up to Jeremiah. He's in his own jail cell. They have like another back and forth. The prisoner in the next cell starts like ribbing him, but the way it's shot, like the camera doesn't like show you who's saying this stuff. It's like what's your name? My name is Jeremiah J. Johnson or whatever. And then from the next crowd, it's like, hey, JJ, buddy. And it's like, who's saying it? It takes forever for the camera to show us that there are prisoners right next to him who are kind of listening in on the conversation. For a while, I'm all like, is the movie making fun of itself? Like, what? Who's talking right now? Is this like a commentary?
Yeah.
But
it's the coked up producer that greenlit this fucking movie, and they didn't tell. So yeah, he says that you're gonna be in jail for a long time, but J. Jonah Jameson says like, I hate busting out of these prisons because he's been alive forever. He's an immortal or whatever. We never find out why he's immortal. We never find out what he is.
He's a traveler.
He is a traveler.
He's a traveler,
which means what?
And he's his guide. Well, he explains it at like the very beginning of the movie that there's like people who possess the power to manifest or create. And it's their job to like guide them to figure this out.
Right, and he never pointedly says, I don't know what you need to make. I just know that you have the capability to do that.
He knows, Jameson. he distinctly knows what he needs to create.
Yeah.
So JJ's which we should just call him for simplicity's sake. JJ's sole purpose in this movie is to get David to create Robosaurus. There's no other reason why he is here. But no, he says that he pointedly is 2,356 years old.
Right.
And it's his mission to help David manifest his dreams and come to peace with his son's death, because his son is watching him and whatever. And David's all like, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, you can rot in here. And he walks away, and JJ yells, "The blossoming is about to come!"
The blossoming is about to come!
And surprisingly, the peanut gallery next to him is very quiet on that. And I'm just all like, guys, he's giving you gold. Come on. I can think of 3 jokes off the top
And of course, we never find out what the blossoming is, but...
Pretty sure the blossoming is Robosaurus.
Oh, absolutely. So, the movie takes a detour where David goes on a date with Nicole. And the reason I write this down is because he mentions that, like, hey, I think you're right. I think I need a night off. Do you want to go to an ice bar?
Listen, I know this great ice bar downtown. It's a good legal way to get cool. You want to go down there with me?
That is both the worst and the best pickup line.
Now, at first, I thought this was more of this bullshit future speak, but what happens in the scene right before this is he parks in front of his apartment and he sees some rapscallions opening a fire hydrant because
playing in the spray.
Because it's hot. It's a hot town somewhere in the city.
Yeah.
And Lisa, that's her name, right? Lisa?
Nicole.
Why do I do that?
I don't know.
Joan Chen comes by and she says, "Would it be crazy if I took off all my clothes and went and joined them?" And David's all like, "I'd have to arrest you." And I'm just over here going all like, "Lady, you can't walk naked towards a bunch of children. There's laws against. I know it's the Blade Runner future, but there's still laws against this sort of thing." But yeah, she's awkwardly flirting, and she is so thirsty for this guy. Like when he says, like, "Do you want to go to the ice bar?" Her response isn't just yes, it's yes.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah. And it is legit an ice bar because there is a massive block of ice on every table at this.
It's the Iceberg Lounge.
It's the Iceberg.
It's run by the Penguin.
Yeah.
And there's like a jazz band to go against like the cool vibes of the ice bar.
Yeah, a legal place to get cool, and like cut to the jazz bar, and I'm like, fuck yes. And I need to go to a place like this. And
Joan Chen has finally gotten her wish, and she's on a date with David, and he's immediately blowing it by talking about his son's murder. Like, cause there's like, yeah, he was a great kid, and then a bazooka blew him up, and he's basically describing in minute detail the scene that we've already seen. And she's like, wow, that's really tragic, that's really terrible. And before she can change the subject, who should be playing the saxophone?
JJ. I was really hoping there'd be a line where he was like, "Oh, I taught Charlie Parker everything he knew," or something like that.
And he's not just like playing with the band, like he's taking that saxophone for a walk.
Yeah.
Which is very impressive.
Just sits in with the band and then steals a saxophone.
And he just walks up the stairs and like, I really wanted David to like arrest him in like the middle of the set and just be all like, "Come on, you motherfucker!" It cuts to like outside the club, and he
ditches Nicole to go and catch this guy, and we don't see Nicole again for the movie.
Well, there's one more time we see Nicole, but so he arrests JJ again, and you just know that the screenwriters behind this were all like, the best part about this guy being magic is we don't actually have to write a creative way for him to get out of jail.
No.
We can just have him say, "How'd you get out of jail?" "Well, in 3,000 years, I've learned a trick or two." No, motherfucker, how did you get out of jail? Come on.
Yeah, and this is where he breaks down, what his purpose is, who he is. David says, like, "I just can't believe this." And JJ says, "Listen with your heart and not your head," which is a classic con artist tactic.
Well, not only, you mentioned con artist. Like, he also says in this moment was all like, I know your son is watching us right now. He says, "What do you know about Davey?" I forgot to mention David's son name is Davey.
Davey Jr. or whatever.
And he says, "I know he was a good boy and he loved you very much," which is some classic con artist bullshit. Like, you basically told me nothing.
Yeah.
You could say that about literally any child on the planet. You're not telling me specifics, JJ.
Yeah.
But it's also in this moment, interestingly, that we learn that Jeremiah is immortal and he will never die of natural causes. He can, in fact, be killed. He can be killed by violence. And it is at this point that I ask the question, "Sir, You are a black gentleman. Are you telling me that you have lived through decades and decades and have never once encountered mob violence?
Or hostility?
Or, like, put you in any dangerous situation? You've lived until now, and that's never been an issue before for you?
When did you get to America?
Exactly. He mentions, like, I saw Joan of Arc on the cross. It's like, did none of those people have any questions for you?
In the era of superstition
Yeah.
and suspicion of witchcraft, no one's looking at this immortal man.
Everyone's just like, checks out. He's just a guy.
Yeah, really.
Oh, man.
You know what? We haven't mentioned that the Robosaurus toy that David has
Seems to have a mind of its own.
Yeah, it's gone haywire, and it keeps waking David up in the middle of the night, and he has a constant voiceover where he's like, I could have sworn I locked the Robosaurus toy in.
After we just saw a scene of him lock the Robosaurus toy. God damn, this fucking narration is so dumb. I gotta say, seeing Robosaurus kind of zoom around with his little chompers going,
Yeah.
It's disturbing. It's not cool.
No.
I wouldn't want to see that in the middle of the night.
No,
Thanks very much.
That thing's gonna knock over everything in sight, you know? But it never explains why that thing is going haywire. I kept waiting for JJ to
reveal the ultimate in schlocky exposition.
I was dying to hear the lines, your dead son has
Been reincarnated into the Robosaurus.
That's what I figured. There were two things two reveals that I assumed were going to happen in this movie, and neither of them did. One was the soul of the son is trapped inside the Robosaurus toy. The other one was, maybe this is just like a trope of this type of storytelling or whatnot. I was convinced that Gina was going to turn out to be like dirty or something. It's just like
on the take, or
because
like,
she just really leans so heavily into like just looking out for my partner. I was looking out for my partner. My partner, what a great guy.
Yeah.
It's all like she's got someone on this police force has to be on the take and has to be partnered up with the colonel. But no, that never happened either. Yeah.
Yeah, but like Robosaurus being imbued with the spirit of a son, as stupid as that is, at least it's an explanation as to why this toy is going haywire.
It wouldn't. I wouldn't be out of place in everything else that happens in this movie now.
No.
And like David has.
But no, now it's just like a toy that's running amok.
Yeah. And it's like David is having like a dream of the giant Robosaurus eating a car, and then like the toy Robosaurus goes into the child's room and picks up a car and kind of crunches on it.
Just like the one in my dream.
It's like, I couldn't believe it. The Robosaurus was eating the car like the one in my dream.
It's a sign.
And then later on...
Is it? It turns out no.
Jared breaks in and he plants a bomb in his apartment.
Yeah,
and Robosaurus saves the day. And the narration is so stupid because he's all like, I didn't know it at the time, but I had been saved by a friend. And it cuts to Robosaurus. He's like, he's like, yay!
Beep, beep. I loved that scene where
it was great.
So yeah, Jared uses like this handheld unlocking device where he just like plunks it into the keyhole. That's another futuristic device that doesn't exist these days. And he plants this, I guess, like an alarm clock that's encased in plastic. That's the time bomb.
You gotta know the time. Even if you yourself are not looking at it, you need a timer to know when the bomb will go off.
And the Robosaurus toy takes it upon himself to pick it up with his little tiny metal claw and wheel it out of the house.
It's such an awkward thing, the Robosaurus toy, that he's kind of just like, yoink! Like he does it really fast.
I love that. He was so stupid.
It's really great, yeah.
Little Robosaurus to the rescue there. But yeah, saved by a friend and immediately cut to the little clamping Robosaurus toy.
David has a dream where he remembers details about his son's murder, and he saw the car that blew up his son go into a van that had like this cleaning service on it that had like an Arabian Nights type thing, but of course there's no Google, so he can't look up what it is. So he tries to get Gina to like look it up for him.
Yeah, based on like a hand-drawn picture that he makes of it.
But he can't literally tell her that it's like, I had a dream about this. Yeah. So he creates this character of a blind snitch that doesn't actually exist or whatever, that really goes nowhere. And eventually Gina's like, I found it, but to tell you, like, you need to tell me. You need to tell me what's going on. And so they meet for a drink, and he tells her everything about the magical black man and the Robosaurus toy, and she's doesn't take her well. She's disturbed. She's disturbed, to say the least.
As a normal person would be.
And she says, like, don't go after the Colonel by yourself. I'll tell you, it's this location. It's run by the Colonel. Don't go after yourself. Wait for backup. We'll come with you. And of course, David doesn't listen, and he goes to the factory by himself, and he meets with the Colonel. And the Colonel gives him the runaround. He gives him like he's got lots of paperwork to back up the fact that
my truck was not at the scene of
his
where
criminal empire is above board. But of course, when David leaves, he sends Jared after him to because earlier the Colonel really gives Jared the business for screwing up the bombing.
Yeah,
he's really harsh.
Yeah, with the words.
You are a coward. Leave now. I am annoyed with you.
He literally
just calls him like, you are a coward.
Yeah.
Leave now. I am annoyed with you.
Yeah, you failed the assassination. Yeah, I swore I planted the bomb in his apartment. A Robosaurus must have got it.
No,
you probably just didn't do it because you're
probably,
a coward.
You probably chicken shitted out. Get the fuck out of my
most
face.
loyal hatchet man. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like their relationship is pretty good up until this moment, and then the Colonel shows his true colors. Kind of a toxic boss. But yeah, Jared is after David now, and Gina confronts David on the street outside. It's like, you went to that place, didn't you? And he's all like, yeah, I went to that place, definitely. And then Jared doesn't get out of the car. He just rams the car into both of them. David survives. And
Gina doesn't.
She dies in his arms. But as Jared's driving away, David's firing at him, and he's all like, I ran him over with a car, and he's still alive. Jared, running someone over with a car is survivable. It's not, you're a bad assassin. Like, it's dangerous and lethal, certainly, but, like, people walk away from that.
Like, maybe the idea is that, like, he gets the message now or whatever.
No, but the message was supposed to be him not living.
Right.
The Colonel wanted him to not be breathing anymore after this point.
So Gina's dying. She confesses her feelings to David.
I always hoped.
Which apparently was always a thing.
Yeah, I was always a hope, and she said, I'm gonna go keep Davy company in heaven.
I'll be waiting for you.
I'll be waiting for you.
That's a kind of a creepy final words to say.
It's very weird, and based on this, David loses his shield and his badge, something that should have happened multiple scenes ago.
Yep.
I think we've jumped ahead because I actually forgot about an amazing moment that
What's
I really
that?
want to talk about. So, somewhere in between this, David, when he confronts Jeremiah, he's like, "You're crazy. I gotta get out of here." And Jeremiah says, I'll be at the ice club if you want to talk. When you're ready to talk.
Do you just work there now?
I guess he got himself a job. Sure, why not?
I mean, it's a pretty happening spot. So like, okay, great, yeah, I can see that. I want to go to the fucking ice lounge.
It seems like the #1 place in town. It's very cool.
Yeah,
it's a legal way to get cool, Jameson.
The only legal way to get cool.
Should be on a T-shirt. We should make merch for this movie. The Ice Club, the only legal way to get cool in town. So David goes to the club. And he's like, I'm ready to listen now. And then we cut to them on an escalator where Jeremiah's explaining more of the bullshit. Like, I'm a guide. I'm like going through history or whatever.
I'm here to inspire you to make Robosaurus.
2 amazing things happen in this scene. One, the scene previous, David goes to Jeremiah and says, I'm ready to listen now. Cuts to another scene. Jeremiah spends 2 minutes explaining what the whole deal is, and at the end of it, David immediately goes, "This was a mistake. I need to go." He said, "Like I'm actually not ready at all. I have to leave." It's like, dude, make up your fucking mind. I'm getting whiplash here from the amount of like.
Are you on board with this or not?
Are you on Team Robosaurus or aren't you?
Are you in the movie Robosaurus or not?
The thing that I have to highlight about this escalator scene. This is a perfect example of why you need to dress your extras very carefully. Because directly behind our 2 lead characters on this escalator are 2 policemen who are like in full dress attire. They have like the hats, they have like the long sleeve shirts, but they are both wearing the shortest short shorts I've ever seen. And it's so distracting. You just get like one great eyeful of like these gorgeous gams on these cops. And I'm like, wait, what is happening directly behind them? This is the story we should be following right now.
What goes into the costume department for a future, sci-fi cop movie? Because I gotta imagine they're just like going through a costume trunk or a box and like just grabbing everything they can.
But if like the aesthetic of the movie was that like it's really fucking hot and everyone is wearing like loose summer clothing, that would make sense. But as you said earlier, they're all wearing like trench coats and long sleeves, except for these two cops who have shorts on. No one else is dressed like that.
They're the hot cops from Arrested Development.
They really are. Excellent legs on these gentlemen. Yeah, I just needed to bring that up because I couldn't believe that when that happened.
So David Nash is off the force, but he decides to check out the warehouse of Colonel once again to I don't know, stop him from doing his evil shenanigans. I don't know what this fucking scheme is.
He has to surrender his badge and his gun, and then we cut to him in his apartment furiously sawing the barrel off his shotgun.
Oh right, that's where Nicole comes back.
And then Nicole comes back, and she's like, "Hey, buddy.
What you doing?
What you doing?" And then that's the last we see of her.
Right,
It's all like, "Oh, we got like this big drug bust going on. The chief wants me ready." She's like,
"Do you need to saw off a shotgun for that?
Is that really what's going on?" And he's just like, "No." And that's the last we see of Nicole. It's very. I think
she's seen too much. She has to be dealt with.
Hopefully, in that moment, Nicole's all like, "I might move. I might move somewhere else.
There's other fish in the sea.
You know what? You're hot, but I've just realized this actually isn't worth it."
So now he goes to the warehouse where the Colonel's about to unleash his fleet of ice trucks with Tyrone's guns or whatever.
The credits will have me believe that one of these goons is played by classic Asian bad guy Al Leon from Lethal Weapon and Die Hard and Big Trouble in Little China. He's in the credits. I couldn't fucking notice him. That's largely because I couldn't see anything in this movie.
Wow.
Apparently he's in there. Classic 90s goon.
It's crazy that he gets mentioned in the credits.
And Arlie does it? Yeah.
He has no lines. He might not even have a screen presence. Arlie is in the movie.
Yeah.
But
very odd.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so David's about to storm the factory. Jay Jonah comes by and says...
That's not his name, but that's fine.
Yeah,
it's okay.
It's a suicide mission.
And he says, like, "David, give me 30 seconds of your time. Really focus. Really try to create Robosaurus."
Yeah.
And David tries, and he's all like, "I can't do it."
Well, I love how he says, like, concentrate on manifesting Robosaurus. And I guess the amount of willpower that he summons to do it overwhelms both him and
Yeah.
Jay.
Well, because they're connected, because he's his guide.
I guess so.
And they're it's the type of acting where it's just like, they just fall
They're
over.
both faint, and
Yeah.
like, wow.
And so
those two actors were in sync together.
And so JJJ says, like, "Fine, all right, it's trial by fire.
We'll do it the hard way.
I'm gonna scare Robosaurus out of you." And so he walks up to the goons, and he basically is all like, "I know you guys got guns in there." And there's a line I wrote down where it's like, "We don't take kindly to trespassers," and he says, like, "I always liked that one part that's like, forget those who trespass against you." And I'm like, JJ, I'm not like a centuries old like magic person. Pretty sure it's forgive those who trespass against you. I've never read the Bible, but I do think that's the quote.
Right.
It's funny how you got that wrong, considering you've been around for as long as you have.
It was a long time ago.
Right.
He's probably just misremembering
I
it.
read the first version of the Bible. I read the first edition before it got all preachy. But because his friend is in danger, David does it.
Yeah, he summons with all his might, and
then the movie gets awesome.
Absolutely. This is what you're signing up for.
This is literally where I stopped writing notes, because at this moment I'm just all like, fuck, there's nothing that I can write that would do any of this justice. Steal justice, indeed.
It's everything you could hope for. Short of the Robosaurus actually eating a guy. It does everything.
He gets close.
Oh yeah.
If I had seen this part, if I had seen this last 10 minutes of the movie when I was a kid, like my life would be different. Like it just would. Like this would have been the most amazing fucking thing. Because even as a kid, I had like a thing about like robot dinosaurs. Like I remember a very vivid memory of going to the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Alberta and like seeing like the animatronic T-Rex, and like that thing showed up in my dreams throughout my childhood. Like I would be dreaming about something unrelated, and then the robot dinosaur would show up, and I'd wake up and be like, "Fuck!"
Yeah. I mean, there's just something undeniably cool about a giant dinosaur robot.
And here's the thing: the way that this dinosaur is like built, like the features of it are so angular and so precise that even on this dog shit YouTube rip, still looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I could still make out most of Robosaurus, and he looks pretty good.
Honestly, the way that it's shot in all these scenes look great.
It looks incredible.
You know, they have like full body versions of it. You can see it move. You see it crash into parts of the building. You see it crush cars.
He knocks over like a guard tower, and like
Yeah.
that thing goes down. The entire thing is just destroyed.
Yeah, like no, they really show the scale of this thing. And there'll be some regular dudes in the same shot of them shooting their guns at it and running away from it. Yeah, it looks great.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
We can't oversell it enough.
Mm-hmm. And like when it shoots fire out of its nose, yeah, you can see it all lit up and all its majesty and
like if it just had glowing red eyes, that would be one thing, but they went the extra mile and they gave him little black pupils.
Yeah.
So that he looks crazy.
Yeah, it looks mean.
Yeah, he looks tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It looks like the drawing of like an 11-year-old boy. Like they really nailed it.
No, they did a great job.
And like
they used it well. And
yeah. And because like the face is like metal, it like reflects the glowing eyes in it. So in some shots, it looks like it has 4 eyes.
Yeah.
It's cool, man.
Yeah, and
we
like-
should have just talked about Robosaurus this entire episode because
Well-
I have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, so Robosaurus' wrecking shop, more than anything, it's like causing a distraction for David Nash to go and infiltrate the building, but
It picks
what a fucking distraction.
It picks up Jared.
Yeah!
And he's like dangling. And it's kind of funny because the way this actor has been playing this role, he's kind of like Mr. Cool.
Yeah, very aloof
I'm
and-
very unflappable. Nothing can go. And in this moment, he goes like full on like, yeah. And he's all like, I'm just a working stiff, all right? The boss is over there. Like he completely craps his pants.
Yeah, well,
it's great.
Who wouldn't?
Absolutely.
In the clutches of a giant metal T-Rex. Why wouldn't you, right?
Oh, man.
And I love the part where Jay Jonah goes to confront him.
Yeah. You owe me an apology.
Yeah, or otherwise I'm gonna have him eat you. And he says to him, "Look, Mr. Man, Mr. Handsome Man, I'm just a working stiff here."
Look, Mr. Man, Mr. Handsome Man, I'm sorry. I'm just but a working stiff trying to make a buck in this
So the Colonel runs away, gets into his getaway car. David gives chase, but you know, when you're being hunted down by both this cop that has a new lease on life and a fucking Robosaurus
seemingly under his beck and call.
Yeah. Yeah, the Robosaurus corners him and then crushes the car and burns him alive. It's awesome.
And then he throws his head back and he roars and fire shoots out of his nostrils. And then he fades away into nothingness. And when that happened, I audibly went, "No!"
Well, I mean,
I'm not even joking. I literally sat up and was all like, "No, I like him."
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was wondering, what do you do? Where do you go from here? Where are you going to store that thing? How are you going to hide this thing? And then when it...
Well, because he lives in his brain, so
Yeah.
it's very easy to store.
But when it just, like, magically vanishes, you don't expect Robosaurus to just magically disappear.
Well, it's like the Megazord from Power Rangers. Like, that's not just, like, hanging out in a warehouse. Like, you have to, like, call it.
You have to summon it.
You have to summon it, exactly, yeah.
So that's what this guy does. His power is now summoning a rampaging Robosaurus.
And that's presumably what the show would have been about, because like it wraps up really fast, and the chief reinstates David. What do you have to say about this giant robot dinosaur? And David's all like, it doesn't. That sounds ridiculous. Who would ever believe such a thing?
Yeah, you're right. And I'm like, you're telling me in the future there's no
CCTV?
Yeah, there's no security footage of this. There were no witnesses to a giant metal dinosaur.
I don't even think they have cell phones.
What are you, crazy? A camera and a phone.
And then it appears that Jeremiah is saying goodbye to David. It appears that he's saying like, well, my work here is done. I'm off to the next case, and I'm going to help the next person manifest their power or whatever. And then they turn their backs to the camera, and what I can only imagine is ADR dialogue. Jeremiah's all like, or not. Or maybe I'll hang around for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Maybe like 50 years.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And
Yeah.
it's all like, well, no, we almost shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
This is going to series, clearly.
In the editing room, they were like, this might be turned into a series. So make sure you throw in a line in there where he's going to be a recurring character. Oh, but there was so much other bullshit that he says and all, and like he says,
Yeah, we're only scratching the surface.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, like the chief says, well, David Nash, maybe you can teach us all to dream again. And I'm like, oh my fucking God.
That was the lesson. That was what we were building towards.
Yeah.
Everyone lost the ability to dream.
Yeah.
And just
good Lord.
we were denied. We were denied a weekly series where the solution to every problem was Robosaurus coming out of nowhere and destroying everything.
I don't know how it would work, but Godspeed to them who can make it work.
I would have loved this to maybe if there were like 10 episodes of this that could like
If you can get that.
if you can get that many of them, yeah.
You need the budget of like the final season of Game of Thrones for
I would
every
love-
episode.
I
of
would
this.
love to see like the middle episode. I'd love to see like episode 7 where it's all like
like
we're already running out of ideas for things Robosaurus can do. Fuck. He goes to
Robosaurus on a plane? I don't know.
Robosaurus in a water park? I don't know. Shit.
Yeah.
All right.
You got to do like the throwaway episodes, like the character episodes.
The Robosaurus clip show.
Yeah.
Remember the time? Oh boy. Was there anything else we forgot?
There were a couple of things. Let me just run through the my list.
Because this movie has a certain something.
Oh,
and that something is a Robosaurus.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, like even the Robosaurus-less parts of this are still really entertaining.
You do not expect there to be a mystical fantasy element to a show about Robosaurus.
And have that be like the central premise of your of your thing.
Like maybe if he can summon other things, but no. The alternate title of this was Robosaurus.
Yes,
they
were correct.
It was clearly meant to be a vehicle for Robosaurus.
And that is the thing. It's like Jeremiah is there to be all like, I'm here to help you manifest like your totem, which is like your child's precious object. And it's like, it's only this. It's only the robot dinosaur. It's nothing else. It's not like you to bring up a character I was quoting earlier. It's not like Green Lantern where you can manifest whatever you need in any given moment. No. It's Robosaurus or nothing.
Yeah. All right, we'll loan you our Robosaurus for this TV show, but it's got to be in every fucking episode.
You know, where are they now? Where are they now? What happened? Truly, what happened to Robosaurus?
Oh man, now I'm gonna look into it, and I will be heartbroken if I find out it's been dismantled.
I'm sure it's been dismantled. This was 1992, Jameson.
Jeez,
this thing is not operational anymore.
I mean, it's probably a bitch to keep up repairs on something like this. Who do you go to when a part of this breaks down?
I hope the head is like somewhere. I hope like the head is like part of like some guy's like junk dealership or whatever. It's like, oh, I saw you noticing the Robosaurus over there. No, that was nearly a TV show back in 1992.
No, this is I mean, it's not a great story whatsoever.
You hold your tongue.
But I mean, you can't deny the awasomeness of Robosaurus.
No, I was really concerned when I was reading these reviews for it, and I don't agree with any of them. I think, yes, does the giant Robosaurus only show up in like the last 10 minutes of the movie? Yes, he does.
But what do you expect?
Absolutely, you can't.
For a TV show budget, like
what would you have him do? Indeed, he can destroy things.
Yeah,
that's kind of it.
Yeah,
and like, thank God they didn't give Robosaurus dialogue. Like, thank God he. Can you imagine if like the robot dinosaur was going around and had like the voice of the child,
or saying kid dialogue, but in like a booming robot voice?
Yeah,
like, Father, I love you.
Actually, that would be good.
Okay, yeah.
You know what?
We can only make it better.
We'll do.
But no, they use this thing sparingly and in the right possible way. You don't want to get bored of Robosaurus.
No,
there is a danger of it becoming overkill.
I was concerned that I was going to have to sit through a fairly boring movie to get to hot Robosaurus action in the last 10 minutes. This movie is so fucking weird that it's entertaining consistently throughout. And it's like the story goes to places that I didn't expect it to be.
And it ends on an exclamation point. That is Robosaurus.
It does indeed, yes. So it's on YouTube. You have to squint a little bit. But honestly, just jump to the last 10 minutes. I mean, like, yeah, the context of everything that happened before it does kind of help, but you can just you can just watch it divorced of everything else and have yourself a great fucking time.
Yeah, in the context of the overall story, it's ridiculous. And it's a ridiculous thing to begin with, so...
And truly, I want to reiterate, we are not we are not overselling this. This is so fucking cool. It's a giant robot fire-breathing dinosaur that destroys a building. It's fucking great.
If that's not up your alley, then
why are you listening to us?
we're like
we're not the demographic.
we're not the demographic.
We're not for you.
Exactly.
If you've been listening this long. All right, so we wrapped up another miniseries. Did we learn anything?
Oh man, I learned that
there's gold in them hills.
There's gold in them hills. Like, it's so fascinating to me that, they would have something that goes to a pilot stage for such ridiculous ideas. And this was like the most outlandish of the ideas that we had. But throughout the development of something like, say, The Best of Times,
objectively the worst of the three movies that we covered, but we still managed to mine some comedy gold out of that, mostly based on the situations of that. But yeah, that was...
But like at some point in the development stage, someone had to have said like, this is not going to work, but let's make a pilot of it and see if it catches fire. And it clearly didn't. And it wound up being just like a waste of everyone's time and money. But on viewing these sorts of things, you kind of see there are interesting nuggets to be found in this. Like, I think of the three shows that we watched, and I'm going to call them shows, Blackjack had the most potential of being a long-running series, and for whatever reason, it just didn't catch on with people. I can certainly see why Robosaurus wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, and how it couldn't really sustain itself as a show, and yet it's a thing to marvel at.
It's a perfectly entertaining little slice of cheese. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing about TV pilots is that for everyone that escapes and is viewable on the internet, or is like or God forbid ends up on like a collection on like DVD or something like that. Like, here's like 4 pilots that never made it. Like something crazy like 100 pilots are shot every year, Jameson. And they're never seen. They're put on a shelf, and they just collect dust on a shelf. So it's like, if they make it this far, if they have like
it's
enough,
a miracle in itself.
Yeah. If they have like enough enough juice behind them that it's all like, this will never be a series, but also people should probably see this.
Yeah.
In one capacity or another. Like, we'll air it once.
Yeah.
But there's like a multitude of pilots that never air anywhere.
Yeah. We're living in a terrible era now where movies will get filmed and then potentially never get released. And in fact, the footage will be destroyed.
It's genuinely one of the worst things that's ever happened to the medium of cinema ever.
Yeah.
David Zaslav should be arrested.
Absolutely.
Or at the very least, fired.
Absolutely. But yeah, we're looking at a period in time and an era where something will get presented to the public as a, what do you think? Is this something for you? If not, well, we tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels like there's like enough of that makes it onto streaming anyway. Like, there's all of like this, like, I know shovelware is a term that we use for video games, but it really does feel like it's all like, we just gotta get this content out there.
Yeah.
Just get it out. And it's like,
yeah.
But even that's disappearing too. Like, those shows are getting pulled from streamers, and it's just all like, you may not never see this again.
Yeah. You're either getting, in this area, you're either getting a full season order of something, or you're getting nothing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not in the era where people were like videotaping things off their TV, and then they had the videotape in their collection or whatever. It's like, you either DVR it or it doesn't exist.
Or you're out of luck. Yeah.
You're out of luck. Absolutely. Wow. Okay. So we're here at the tail end of another.
What a fascinating series!
It was. There was some great conversations to be had. But that was Robosaurus, directed by Christopher Crowe. If you like this episode, please check out our back catalog of episodes. If you go farther back into the catalog, you'll see that they are under the name The Fuck Is This? Don't worry, it's basically the exact same show as this. We just talk about a movie and we have a good old time.
We sure do.
And we're available on Spotify and YouTube. And if you're listening to us on Spotify and you want a more visual element, like you want to see the horrible Whispers in the Dark poster that we were talking about, and we did not do justice stuff, you can hop on over to YouTube, where Jameson includes all the visual images and clips from the movies and whatnot. Anyway, we'd like to thank Eddie Lamb for his fantastic theme music. You can follow us on all the social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're not on TikTok. We're gonna wait until like the day before TikTok is banned, and then we're gonna join TikTok. It's only cool if it's illegal. That's what we want. And as we know, there's only one legal way to get cool. And you can follow me. I'm on Letterboxd. I'm Kaz Lesgard.
You can go to my YouTube channel, Uptown Slim Jim, to see all my cartoons and whatnot. Robosaurus doesn't really have an iconic quote.
Yeah, he does.
Roar.
Oh, you stupid car. I don't know whether to kiss you or to eat you.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
the only line he ever says.
I was gonna say something from Arlie Emery, but I don't know any. I can't remember all his stuff.
Most of the stuff he says is not repeatable.
No. You can suck a golf ball through a garden hose.
What is your major malfunction?
Sure.
That's what we want to. Yeah. What is it?
I don't
Think
know.
about it.
I don't know.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Best ending ever.